She was the latest chick at the office. She was also a very attractive woman. She was also very flirty. Some would mistake it for a free spirit, but I would say she was always out there. She wore outfits that made my mind run wild like Usain Bolt on a track. She had those low-cut skirts. Her cleavage always in your face. It was like she wanted you to just put your head down there and just drown in it. She was very suggestive in the gestures that she made, and she was, for a time, the perfect distraction. I figured these were all signs. I figured she wanted it. I figured she wanted me. One day after this really stressful day at work, we went out for a few drinks. You know how workers are. We just look for a way to blow steam. And then, no pun intended, but things got very steamy very fast. We were both tipsy, and my hormones were beginning to take over. We danced, and I kissed her. She kissed me back so hard. We kept drinking, shots on shots and shots. I wanted this night to drown in drinks. And the night was filled with so much lust, she became a little too woozy, and I knew this was the time for a predator to make his move. She had drank one too many drinks, and I took her back to my hotel room. I was about to get it on with this chick. I'm like, hell no. But it didn't feel right some way, somehow. She wasn't as into it as I thought she would have been. So she pushed me back with the little strength she had left. I choked her by the neck firmly, thinking, hey, this is, 50 Shades of Grey all over. She probably likes it rough. But she pushed me away harder, and she was ready to go third base. I pulled off, and it felt very dirty. Now I remember my own family, my beautiful wife, my beautiful kids, and I knew some way, somehow, I had messed up really bad this time. I wasn't going to have sex with her without her physical consent, obviously. I still sit and wonder what would have become of me if I had forced her, mistaking her no as a luring yes. How could I have been that irresponsible? How could I have been that stupid? Dear God, forgive me.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the talk show where we dare to speak the unspoken. My name is Iretiola Adol and thank you for tuning in. I'm pretty excited because over the last several weeks we've been talking about female gender-related issues with an emphasis on sexual harassment, sexual abuse, and today I have with me in the studio two very vibrant young men. And I will add the word virile as well. They're young, they're good looking, they're at the very forefront of what they're doing. And we're going to be getting their perspective, which we hope will reflect the male perspective on this very touchy subject. Now, my first guest to my extreme left is, he's known as the Catalyst. He's recognized as one of Africa's premier life, mind, emotions, and behavioral change coaches who works with individuals and organizations to transition from where they are to where they desire to be. Originally trained as an engineer at the University of Lagos, Nigeria, Lanre, I've said his name, is an alumnus of the Harvard Business School, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, and ASCT UK certified life coach with years of experience and expansive studies in the fields of psychology, neuro-linguistic programming, performance improvement management, human cognitive behavioral psychology, metamedicine, emotional freedom techniques, matrix re-imprinting, and more. My second guest to my immediate left, and his name, I said Lanre. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Lanre Olushola. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you
for joining us on the
Rachel.
show. To my immediate left is an actor, a television host, a model, and of course the current Mr. Nigeria. He is also the first runner-up for Mr. World Africa. He studied international relations at the United States International University in Nairobi, Kenya. He has just launched his project, which he calls RAW, and that stands for Respect a Woman. That goes straight to my heart. It's a campaign aimed at raising awareness on the issue of domestic violence and advocate for women who are currently going through these issues through his foundation, which he plans to launch officially later this year. Please join me in welcoming Emmanuel Ukubese. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine.
Welcome. Great to see you again.
Great
and
to see you.
in this regard, I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right. Sexual abuse, rape, harassment. It happens, and the first question usually is, what did she do wrong? she was asking for it. Your men, your good-looking, vibrant Nigerian men, is it true that every time you see a woman whose button is, you know, undone beyond a certain point, or whose skirt is tight beyond a certain point, you think of sex? Is that the first thing that comes to your mind?
I think we need to understand how men are wired.
How are you wired? I'd like to know.
A lot of men are moved by what they see.
Okay.
And media has played a large role in reprogramming men.
Okay.
And so everywhere you look,
sex is on sale.
Everywhere you look, and you know, in the regard of, okay, what are women doing? You know, it's not their fault that they're being raped. It's not their fault that they're being abused. The very first place that we want to point the fingers is media. And the second place we want to point the fingers is women as well.
How so, Larry? I'm not going to let that slip by. How are they responsible?
All right, I'll tell you what. So if we go to the campuses, if we go everywhere, parties and everywhere, pretty large number of women are wearing those things that you have described. And so a man looks to his left, he looks to his right, he looks at TV, all that he's bombarded with as sex symbols, sexy ladies, showing off their breasts, wearing tight things. And so that man becomes a victim.
Of what?
Of his environment.
Okay.
And so all he sees, sex symbols, sex objects.
Okay.
And, you know, if that man, you know, is a victim of his past, and is a victim of his low self-esteem, is a victim of his, you know, warped beliefs, what does he do? When he can't get the woman, he launches out violence.
When he can't get the woman.
When he
That's
can't
assuming
get the woman.
he even tried. Because I wanted you to learn, let it not be that I'm grabbing the words from you. I'm a woman, I'm sorry. I can only react to what you're saying as a woman. You say you walk into a room, you turn to your right, you turn to your left, and everybody's scantily clad. Okay, fine. And then you think that that gives you the right to go and take. How about asking for it? You might just get it pleasantly. I'm talking about people who violently take what isn't on offer. Is the way the woman is dressed an excuse for that?
Where
does self-control come in?
Yes and no. Remember that I said that even the man has his own issues. And the man is coming from way back, history of low self-esteem, lack of self-confidence. He can't approach a woman, but he wants the woman. You know, historically, he's seen it happen and people have gotten away with it. Maybe he's seen his father do it. Maybe he's seen his friends do it. Maybe he's seen his siblings do it. And so we're talking about a victim, okay? And we need to look at it from that perspective. A victim that needs help, a victim that doesn't recognize that he's messed up and he needs help, and all he can do to feel like a real man is to assault a woman, is to rape a woman, is to abuse a woman. That guy needs help. And don't take it wrong that I'm approaching it from this perspective, because you see, there's a positive intention behind every action that every man takes. Every action that every man takes.
Every man, as in the
every
male
human
species
being,
or human being.
Every
okay.
human being. Intrinsically, there's a positive intention at
All right,
the heart
educate
of
me.
it.
You have deep insight into psychology. What is the positive intention behind anybody, male, woman, man, woman, violently raping or harassing or abusing another person?
So maybe that guy wants to be wanted. Maybe that guy wants to be respected. Maybe that guy wants to be honored. Maybe
Hello.
that guy
I think
wants...
that's what you want. You want sex. I think that's why we have prostitutes that you can pay for.
Yeah,
why do you need to violently attack a woman who isn't offering you sex?
Maybe that guy wants control. Maybe that guy wants to feel like
How
a
about
man.
controlling himself?
And you see, that's why we need to look at it from the psychological perspective. And if we look at it from the psychological perspective, we now need to backtrack and say, okay, when this guy unconsciously made a decision to launch out, what was the intention? There may have been a positive intention behind that. His actions are wrong, and what he's done is wrong. And so if you identify that that man is a victim and that man has a problem, then you can begin to help him. But if you put him in prison or, you castigate him and label him, is he going to stop? It's not. The only way that you can help him is to create awareness about the issues and the struggles that this particular person has.
You know, I need to involve you in this
Yeah,
conversation,
I'm just
and
waiting for the right
Mr.
time.
Olushola has just dug a big hole for you, because the next question is, and I'm sorry, like I said, I'm a woman, and I can only react to what you're saying. I'm trying to be open-minded here, and all I hear is you making excuses and justifying this violent act. The next question is, are men justified in their reasons for rape? And I ask you to be very careful in answering that question, given what Mr. Olushola has just said.
No, I feel I was tempted to come in, but you know I just wanted to.
Please feel free to jump in.
to finish. But hey, I feel no man has any right to violently, you know, to really grab or violently abuse any woman, you know. And this thing falls back to what, like he said, it's all about the media and what men see, but like you said also, it's also about control, you know. As a man, the fact that you see a woman look, and personally I feel every woman has a right to dress whichever way, you know. It all falls back to you as an individual to actually control yourself, you know, and you don't have to really violently go after a woman. You know, there's so many ways you can actually approach a woman. If she doesn't want you, then you can just step back, you know, and go for somebody else that you think will want you, you know, not raping a woman or violently trying to show that you're a man, you're trying to overpower her, you know, and feel that makes you the man because you have control over her. I think that is wrong. And I think that's what we need to address. And it's become a norm because men actually feel it's a right thing to do, you know, because
paraphrase that,
yeah.
not the, and I will go by even walking through the market.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that it's a right, but it is their right. You walk through the market and you have people dragging you and touching you in all parts of your body, and when you say, you know, you really don't need to touch me to draw my attention, like, why not? You know, be woman. In essence, what does that tell you? You're a woman, you're designed, you're there to be touched by any and everybody. What do you have to say to that?
In looking at things from both perspectives, so the first perspective is what created this monster, which is the dimension that I'm looking at it from. And now this monster has been created. What is right or what is wrong? Okay? So looking at it from that perspective, right, no woman or no man in society where there are rules and regulations, has a right to do what is against the law. So now we establish that, you know, the law states that, you know, the woman has a right to herself and her body. And no man has a right to lay his hands forcefully except by her consent. Okay, so we're looking at it from that perspective and within the confines of law and order, you know, values, what is right, what isn't right. Okay, now from that perspective, it is right. What you're saying is right, but you know, and it's acceptable. However, if you backtrack and if you want to fun track whether there's that word, right? How do we solve the issues? How do
Which
we
are really
solve
on the increase.
Yes, which is on the increase. Husbands are raping their wives, and they're saying that, you know what, she's my wife.
Boyfriends, we're even going boyfriends
Are raping girlfriends. You know, why are they doing it?
I ask you,
Yeah.
I would like to, I know you give a lot of life coaching talks. I know you come in contact with a lot of young people. Do you have any insight into why it is on the increase?
They're victims.
The attackers themselves.
Yeah, the rapist is a victim. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. The guy has an issue. He has a problem. Anyone that is normal will not do it.
All right, so what you're saying, this is scary, we're facing an epidemic because society is hard. And you forgive me, let me play the devil's advocate here, because I know there are people watching at home who are like, what is he talking about? Life is hard for everybody, frankly speaking. We live in a society that is hard. And just because you have your shortcomings and your frustrations, you can't get a job, you don't feel manly enough, your mother used to beat you, that's not an excuse for you to take your frustrations out on the next person. What I'm hearing and what is scaring me, because, and then this is where I know you would completely disagree. In Africa, we have rules and regulations that guard society. We don't make excuses. What I'm hearing is a lot of the excuses that the Western world makes, giving a bad thing a fancy name, so you can dress it all up and say, okay, they were born that way, or society made them that way. I totally disagree.
I personally agree with you. I disagree. I think it's just because every man, or it's what's going on right now, and you find that young men, I'm looking at it from an angle of a young person right now. I went to school and I've seen a lot of cases of domestic violence, and like you said, when you mentioned husband and wives, and I'm like, it's not really happening amongst just married couples. It's actually happening amongst young people who just in a very small relationship, who are just dating for a month, 2 months, and you already see, you know, there's a lot of...
All right, thank you for that. We always rush through the show. That's the most frustrating part. I have a list of questions here. They're going to be fast, rapid fire, and anybody can take the... Okay, no, let me start with Mr. Olushola. Do you think that women play a role in how they're pressured by men in today's society?
Yes.
How so? Quickly.
The way they present themselves, the way they appear. In fact, women, you know, are very forthright these days. They don't wait for the man to come at them. They position themselves and they reach out to the men. So, you know, if women say today no, right, and women stick to their guns, it will be impossible for men, you know, to take the steps and the actions that they take. A lot of times, you know, women encourage a lot of things that men do. And the reason why a lot of men do a lot of the things they do is because they're being encouraged by women to do it.
Okay. I'm sorry, the questions were not for you, they were for the population out there, but thank you for answering that. We have several questions that were thrown out to the public. One that Mr. Olushola answered so eloquently: do women play a role in how they're pressured by men? How do we re-educate men and society on the issues of rape? Our third question: why do you think women who get raped never report the crime in most cases? Our fourth question: do you believe it is human nature for men to rape? Or is this notion completely false? And the final question in our Vox Pop is, what is your advice? Okay.
It's been found here and in other parts where it seems to be on the high, that once the woman comes out, they are blamed for it. The women are blamed. Now you cause harm, now waiting you wear. You are the issue. You know, so the whole stress, you go to the police and they're saying, what were you doing in his house?
Most times they should be blamed for rape. Because of the dressing, the facial appearance matters. You can't just, a grown-up woman should not just come out from her house, leaving her boobs open, or put on a bomb shot outside, and walking on the road and expect a good-looking guy to just look and remove his face. No.
I think they'll feel like it's an insult. How will I feel about my peer pressures and I can't walk freely? So they felt, okay, there's no point going out there. And they felt the situation of the country, there's every probability they report and nothing will be done to it. And they felt the deed had been done. So they think, what's the essence?
First of all, the shame. No one wants to be associated with that stigma of being raped, even for boyfriends later on. You know, it's something that affects later. They themselves just want to forget and move forward. It's a bad thing. It can never be undone. It's like a broken egg. No matter what you do, you can never unbreak the unbroken egg. So they're like, well, it's done. Let me take my lessons from that and move forward.
I don't think they are doing a good job concerning the rape issue, because friends who happen to fall into that trap and at the long run maybe they take it to the police station, they don't do anything. They have to improve concerning that.
They are. I've been hearing we have fashion police now in terms of dressing modes. Like I've been seeing some magazines when people question some ladies with that dress code and everything they wear on their body.
There's a limit to what the police can do because the police is an enforcement and what we want is a preventive. The same thing with the judiciary. The judiciary even has a better role to play in that if they put a heavy injunction, like, you know, if someone who is found guilty of rape is sentenced to like 30 years, hard punishment, no appeal for bail, and he'll be put in the place where not only men did, where he too can be raped as well, then it will like send a message to the other people.
People like that should be cancelled, talked to, so that they don't feel that's the end of the world. There are other things, encouragement. They need encouragement, most especially once that thing has been done.
When we have like 6 months baby, a man raped or fingered a 6-month baby, that one is actually aside. Do you get? But in terms of men questioning themselves in ladies being raped, if a lady should wake up one morning and dress decent, and a man should just like, wow, I love that lady with her dress mode. Why? We will live long in terms of rape.
It's society, you know, that will actually play the role. First of all, not stigmatizing these ladies. Like if you hear your girlfriend has been raped, you just find out, I'm actually Hausa and my mom doesn't like Yoruba. You know, those kind of trying to back out of the relationship and so on and so forth. So it's society, it's preventive. Those are the police, they're corrective.
Now, rape is the only crime in which the victim is doubly violated, one by the attacker and then by society. And there are many varying opinions as to how rape should be handled, one by correcting society's view on it, and how to handle the victims, or as I like to call them, the survivors. Any which way, these opinions vary and can only be corrected if we learn to understand the root of the problem, which is rape itself, and understanding that no matter how a woman dresses, acts, or carries herself, there is no reason to ever rape her.
Welcome back, and Lagos Speaks. Very, very eloquent sound bites from our respondents there. Now, Emmanuel has taken a very obvious and direct stand against abuse and abuse of women and sexual assault by launching a project called RAW, which is Respect a Woman. It's a campaign aimed at raising awareness on the issue of domestic violence and advocate for women who are currently going through. It pretty much speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So we know where you stand.
Yeah.
Mr. Olushola, you seem to have, maybe because of your skills and the kind of training you've undergone, you seem, I don't want to call it an empathy because people might misunderstand me. I don't think you empathize with rapists, do you? Or you understand them, you try to understand them.
I understand. I kind of understand why they're doing what they're doing.
Okay.
But I don't accept what they're doing.
How do we deal with it? And that's coming, I'm throwing that question because sometimes in trying to solve a problem, you go to the extreme end and you exacerbate that situation. That's not what we're trying to do. So I'm throwing that question to someone who has a general overview of both the victim and the attacker. How do we deal with this situation?
I'm going to speak about 3 dimensions. One is psychotherapy for both victims, that is the rapist and the person that is raped. Number 2 is culture and tradition. When a man rapes his wife and goes to the police station, what happens? They say, is your wife now?
Okay.
You know,
so there's not enough education.
There's, culture permits it in certain cultures. You have paid the bride price. You can do as you please to your wife. That is wrong. We need to change that tradition. We need to change that culture. The third thing is law and order, the police. The police that you go and you complain to, they tell you better go back to where you're coming from. I beg. That's is a domestic issue. But if a woman comes and says that I was raped, we need to take it seriously and take it to the next level. What the police want, it's a criminal offense. You have acted against the law.
The law of the land.
The fourth thing is media. And media is very powerful. The movies we watch paint a picture that is acceptable. The adverts that we see, the musical videos that we all watch, the songs that our musicians sing.
They all objectify the women.
They all, objectify the women. They paint them in a certain light. All of these things need to be put together to begin to address the issue. Culture, tradition, law and order, media, and help.
Well said. I like that.
Can I just add on to that? Personally, I think a lot of awareness needs to be done because it's not just what is said alone. I think people or victims actually need to feel comfortable going to people. That alone helps. The fact that someone has been raped, they can go to a friend, they can go to a family friend, or they can go to a best friend and just talk about this thing, and they can actually advise them on what to do. You know, it helps a lot. But the fact that they actually don't have anyone, they would just keep it to themselves, and that really messes up a lot with this individual.
Silence.
You understand? And that alone is just wrong. You know, so I think the society needs to stop tagging rapists, or I mean the victims. You understand? They need to stop doing that.
Raping
you
them
know,
a second
they need
time.
they need to stop making feel like the victims actually have done something wrong. You know, it needs to be shown that whoever, as long as this person is a victim, it doesn't matter whether she's at fault or it doesn't matter. The person is not at fault.
She wasn't at fault. It doesn't matter what she was wearing or where she was.
So they need to give that room for a
Okay.
victim to actually be able to talk to someone.
All right.
You know?
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Mr.
Thank you.
Ushola, Mr. Ukubese. Thank you so much. I'm particularly excited about this episode. It's the first time we're having two young, vibrant men talk on this very delicate issue. Thank you
And
for
thank
your
you for calling me young and
forthrightness.
vibrant.
Gray hair, regardless. Now, on a more serious note, whether there's a psychology behind it or not, you have to control yourself. If you think you have an issue, if you're thinking that you might have the tendency to forcefully assault a woman, you can ask for help. You can speak to Mr. Olushola. You can speak to counselors that are abound. Call us on this show, not just the victims, but would-be attackers. You can actually take control. If you're having funny thoughts in your head, if you're feeling a loss of control, if you're feeling inadequate and you think that this is the only way you can express yourself, guess what? It's a criminal offense and you will be jailed. Now the conversation continues, and don't forget that this show is brought to you courtesy Ben Bruce Foundation. The conversation continues on all our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and then you can call us up for any information any time of the day and we will respond. As always, we never have enough time on this show, but we're going to be here same time, same station next week. Once again, this is Ireti Olado signing off until then. Thank you and goodbye.